just quickly show you guys what our agenda looks like for the evening. So we do have a couple of three bylaw amendments that we'll be voting on for this evening for those eligible to vote and voting delegates. And then Matt Pierre will be going over a state of the NWBA as our board president. Eric Grosinger will be going over a kind of a season recap and where we landed all things in our domestic league and membership. And then voting will close following that. And then Mike Gotze, treasurer for the NWBA, will go over a financial report. And then one of our athlete reps from our board, Bailey Moody, will be sharing some success stories for the season. And then I'll close out things with a managerial report. And then we'll have open Q&A period. And then Morgan will be sharing what those voting results were. So without further ado, I think we'll kind of get into things here, and I'll pass the ball over to Morgan.
Thanks, Brandon. So we're just going to go through the three proposed, the bylaw amendment proposals. As everybody should have read when they filled out their forms, these have to be submitted 60 days prior to the annual assembly. And Brandon, I don't know, we do have a request in the chat to postpone the vote if people can't get in, but we'll cover that. I'll let you comment on that in a little bit. But for now, we're going to open the voting, and I'm going to read these bylaw amendment proposals for everyone. You can find the voting links on the NWBA site / annual assembly, or there's some QR codes here up on the screen. So the first one is for section 8.4 athlete representation. So this bylaw is it's expanding the pool of eligible athletes that can strengthen our athlete representation in certain committees. So I'll go ahead and read the current bylaw for section 8.4. Athlete representatives must be equal to at least 33% of all committees and task force to comply with the Ted Stevens Olympic and Amateur Sports Act. At least half of these athlete representatives on designated committees must be 10-year athletes. That's kind of the gist of that. Where the change is coming in is we're just trying to change this to athletes who have been members of the NWBA for at least 2+ years, removing competed in divisional national tournaments within 2 years. So basically all of this bylaw proposal is doing is removing some of that strenuous rules on our actively engaged athlete representatives to strengthen that pool. It removes the limitations on the athlete voice and creates greater flexibility to involve more athletes in leadership roles. So moving on to the next one.
Is there going to be discussion on any of this?
Yes, we'll get to that. But right now we're just going to open.
You.
Yeah, no worries. And just so you know, all of these are proposed. They were proposed 60 days ahead of time. So once these are read, the voting will be open. So just keep that in mind.
Okay. I have an issue with the way they were presented. And I don't think there should be a vote. So when we can get to the discussion, I'd like to talk about that.
Okay.
Will those that vote be able to change their vote after the discussion's held, or once they vote, that's it? Because if that's the case, then shouldn't voting open after the discussion takes place?
Pretty basic procedure. The discussion happens before voting is called for.
Absolutely.
So, sorry. So one thing that I just want to remind everyone of is that you can have the opportunity to discuss this, but we are going to have to read through these first before we get to all that. So just please remember that. Let me talk through these three, and then we'll get to Brandon, and we'll let Brandon and Matt, Pierre discuss that. Okay. So let me just read through these really quickly. Thanks.
But doesn't the conversation get convoluted? If you're going to read each one, people might get confused by all the different topics. Why not take it one by one, just out of curiosity?
I'm just reading the proposals. That's all I'm doing. I'm just reading what was proposed. That there's three of them, okay? And everybody has access to read those themselves. So all I'm doing is reading them, okay?
Morgan, just go ahead and let's just finish out reading them, and then we can open up discussion, everyone. So.
Perfect, thank you. So the next one is section 9.4. These are divisional committees, okay? And this is really to change and kind of streamline the wording for this rule for 9.4 divisional committees. And on top of that, it is going to really take out, it's going to take out some of the wording and streamline this. So I'm going to read this to you guys. Section 9.2, administration. The divisions will be administered in ordinance with the NWBA bylaws. At no time will a division establish regulations, policies, or procedures that are inconsistent with NWBA bylaws, NWBA policies and procedures, or any other NWBA governance documents. Section 9.4, division committees. Each division shall establish divisional regulations to govern and manage divisional administration and activities. The division guidelines shall outline the election process for the divisional committee elected by voting members of the particular division. Voting membership is outlined in 4.3. The divisional guidelines shall outline the division committee composition, terms, responsibilities, and requirements. The division committee composition shall include 33% athlete representation. Each division shall conduct an annual meeting of its members to include committee elections, division guidelines, amendment proposals, and any other business. Annual meeting dates, time, and location are determined by the division committee and will be hosted at least 7 days prior to the annual assembly. So really this is taking out a couple of filler words and proposing that all divisional committees should be done before our annual assembly, 7 days before our annual assembly. Moving on to section 9.5, this is directly following section 9.4. This is setting term limits for commissioners. That's directly what it's doing. We don't have term limits for our divisional commissioners right now. So the proposal is that division commissioners shall serve a 4-year term. Division commissioners shall serve no more than 2 consecutive appointed terms. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Brandon now. You're muted.
Brandon, you're on mute.
I was going to say, I would invite the governance committee to join me in this, but to make sure that we have a productive discussion here, I'd ask if we could use like the hand raise functionality, and then we can select individuals and they can, we could have an open discussion on each of the proposals. And then anyone from governance or leadership can provide a response if there's an inquiry or a question. So, yeah.
Brandon, I'd propose, why don't we go in order of the
Yep.
proposals?
Yep. So I think we start with the first one, athlete representation. Any questions on the proposal 8.4 on athlete representatives? I think I see one from Parnes. Parnes, question on the athlete represent.
Yeah, Brandon, can somebody pull up what was sent out to membership the actual proposal.
The proposals, yep.
Yeah, can you?
Yep. Yep. I can put them in the chat too. So they're,
Yeah, no, it should be on the screen so you can see that what we looked at.
The QR code on the screen goes to the amendment proposals as well, in case anybody wants to use them on a different device.
Joyce, I think you had a question. And we're staying with the athlete
Yeah,
representative ones.
Is there any way to see this, Brandon? Because that goes to the issue that I have. What was sent out?
Matt, do you think you can pull up the proposals? We didn't have them in the presentation because we figured folks would be viewing them beforehand, or I think from the email notices. So, but we can pull them up here.
All right, I can tell you what my issue is, Brandon, and you can see it in every proposal. In the proposal, it said at the top, it says how the bylaws is written. So what is the current bylaw? All right. That was never put in the proposal. For each one of the proposals, the original bylaw was left out. So you can't see it. All right. And then you have, everything was in red on the top. And they said, and then we went to the new bylaw, how it was written. They said, it's what we wrote on the top. That's now how it should have been presented. All right. I know that nobody meant for that to happen, but if you didn't do it that way, all right, it's an actual bias. Okay. That's not what was sent. That was not what was sent out. Okay.
Correct. That's just
that was not what was sent out. What was sent out was only stuff in red. And if you wanted to look at the current bylaw, look at the current bylaw, you had to go and find it.
Yeah,
So
what I'm
that meant
seeing on there, just to jump in. So the current bylaw is all shown here in black, and I'm going to ask anyone from the governance. I'll have to remember of recent proposals, but everything's in black, and all the changes to the current bylaw are in red line.
It's not what we were sent.
But that's not what was sent.
Okay. Can we? I honestly, I would say I'd like to see what version you're looking at and what was posted online. Where the difference is. Like, can you point out what was different on this?
Yeah, I would say that everything. If you go down, Brandon, I guess to what I can share my screen and I can find it, but
Yeah,
if
you roll down,
if you scroll down, all right, that's the only part that we were sent.
Yeah, actually, if you scroll down to the second page, you'll see how it starts to be read out. The first page looks good, but the second page is showing things being read out.
Yeah, the first and the second. I see where the red line, and I see where the proposed, how they wrote it, is changes are marked in red line. I'm just seeing when it was shared, when it was shared out, what version you were looking at, or others on here. Obviously, none of them were intended, as you alluded to, Barnes, throughout the process, like wanted to show this is what they currently are and what whatever changes were being proposed, and then the rationale behind it. I don't think it wasn't intentional.
Yeah, I
So,
don't either. I
yeah.
don't think so either. But I'm saying, Brandon, that it did happen, and and I don't think that we can proceed. In my opinion, I don't think that we can really proceed with voting on any of these amendments because of that. And this is, I wanted to get this information out much earlier, but that wasn't possible. And so this, like I said,
The great thing is it's not my call, right? We're our governance committee and volunteer led. I don't know if Doug, if you're available to chime in here.
Yeah,
but your
am.
application of this.
Yeah, I am, and I want to make sure that I understand the concern. Is the concern that what was provided that delegates were able to look at and read was incorrect information, or was information that was correct but not as complete as information that was available elsewhere?
Doug, I'm not sure where elsewhere would be. What I'm saying is that, what I'm saying is that what was shared was one side of the information. One side of the information. We got what the changes wanted to be. We never saw what the old, what the current bylaw looked like.
So isn't the red line the previous language that is being struck through or changed?
Right, and again, I can show you what we were sent. All right, and it said, and it says in the where it said the current bylaw, all of that was in red for each one of the proposals, as if I know it came from different entities, but it didn't seem like it, because it was the first time I've ever seen that, and that's why I was concerned about it. I think that I do think that that's a larger issue than what is being proposed. I think the bigger issue is that we didn't have the correct process on how they should have been presented. So I can show you what was sent to me, Doug. But
right. What I understand your point is that if the information wasn't correctly provided, then we shouldn't move forward. I understand that. What I'm trying to understand is the information that was provided, that is what we're looking at on the screen, that includes the red line through language that's being changed or removed, and the new language that's in there. What is it that's not present for people to see and understand was either struck through, kept, or replaced?
It was the current, but it was the current bylaw. In other words, we could not see what was the other side of that. That's what we could not see.
The language that's struck through with red, that is not you're saying that's not the previous language that is being sought to be replaced?
Well,
Hey,
I
Barnes,
can. Go ahead.
let
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
yeah.
Do you want to?
Yeah, so Doug, what Parnes is alluding to is the presentation should have a section of the bylaws that is just black, no mark throughs. It should be the bylaw that is presented, that is currently passed by the NWBA. Then below that is where you are supposed to have the bylaws with the red line addition. What we have done is we have gotten rid of the original bylaws section by itself and thrown all this red line into that section, which is procedurally incorrect.
Yeah. So,
and it can be confusing to whoever sees that, thinking that that's the bylaw that's in place based on how these should be procedurally laid out. I think that's what Barnes is alluding to.
So the point is that some people believe that people don't understand red line and the editing on that that people have to see or have provided for them. They can't go look at on their own, whatever the old one was. I guess the point is that you don't think that people understand by looking at this, that what is struck through in red line, all of the language that is there is the initial, it's the original, it's all there. It just has red lines through what is being removed. And for most people, that's the easier way to read and understand changes, because you're not going back and forth from one document to another document. You see in that document what has been redlined, which means it's being removed or changed. So I guess I understand that it may be some people's preference to look at it that way, but when I hear somebody say it should have been, I'm trying to understand.
Have you read some responses in the chat?
Okay.
I have not
yet. Through Robert's Rule of Ordering, you should have the bylaw presented as is. We have not done that.
Hey, can I jump in real quick for everyone? Real quick. I think the biggest thing that I'll say is there definitely is a couple different versions of these proposals out there, which we apologize. And I'll say even through a few of you sending through links here, there's a red line version, and then there's a non-red line version. So I think procedurally everyone's kind of saying, this wasn't presented by whatever committee or by whatever group in the cleanest fashion possible to vote on. And I can confirm, like I'm looking at one that was included in the links during the email announcing this, and it does have red line, but it's the one we're looking at, the next proposal, that didn't have red line in it. So there is an error here. So apologize on that. I think probably with that being said, Doug, you might have from the governance standpoint.
So we don't move forward with that. We have, particularly if we have this number of people uncomfortable with whether this has been clear or not, then
and you wouldn't have
take
known
this
that,
off
Doug.
the table and come back to it another time when we can make sure that it's presented in a manner that people can see and understand exactly what's happening.
Yeah, and for everyone on here, that's that's nothing on governance or staff. I think there was just something that happened procedurally. So thanks, Parnes, and a few others that have chimed in here. I think procedurally, the best course of action is just tabling these.
Brandon, just before we move on, Tim and then Dan, you've got your hands up. Is there anything else you still want to communicate, given what's just been communicated via Brandon?
This is Dan Ferrer from Chicago. And I think, I've been around a while. There used to be a form, I think, long timers remember, that used to have the step-by-step. I think that's where this is coming from, where you'd have to write out the proposal as it exists and then changes from there. So that's how I remember it going back years and years.
Tim, did you have anything? I think you were the last one, Matt.
No, I was just going to say the same thing as I think in the past, how it was always done was the form that you had put out there. That form was what was kind of presented out for those amendment bylaws to be reviewed versus making any alterations and anything. So that way it had that format set up for everybody to review.
Yeah. Nope. Fair. We'll save everyone a vote and some time, and mainly Morgan, so she can go hang with her little. I think we spent some time on that. I believe the next section is Matt on Pierre. So without further ado, I'll toss it over to Matt.
All right. Thanks, Brandon. Good evening, all. For those of you who have not met Matt Pierre, I've been with NWBA member for the past 18 seasons and on the board as a for the past 5 seasons and leading the board here for the past 3. So great to be with you all. A couple things I want to share tonight. Matt, if you want to go one slide. First and foremost, it takes a village to make this work. I think, on the heels of another very successful season, obviously there's things that we have aspirations of where we want to improve, but I think overall feel really good about where we are this season. I will let Eric get into more specifics of that a little bit later in the presentation. But first and foremost, just a big thank you to all of our leadership, to the 14 other board members who help lead and govern the organization, to our athlete advisory committee, to our council, and to our 8 committees. You can see a lot of well-trodden names here with a lot of NWBA experience. So thank you to you all for your help and guidance and governance and leadership for the NWBA. Matt, if you want to go one more slide. And then obviously that carries over as well to our division, our 5 different divisions and our leadership there. So again, a big thank you for all that you do for us and the NWBA to make this run. One more slide. I want to talk a little bit and focus my comments quickly. I know it's getting a little late, not in terms of where we've been, but where we're going. And so as we think about, the overall NWBA operating model, we have a lot of inputs into this, right? So we have our leadership and our governance. We have a lot of strategic partners. We have 133 some odd programs that are driving the force behind our teams. We have an army of coaches and officials and classifiers. We have countless phenomenal volunteers that make all this work. And then we have our donors and grant funders that help support this. When we look at the NWBA and kind of what we own from an organizing principle, there's 5 deliverables that we have. Obviously, rules and governance. Obviously, opportunities to improve that slightly, as we just saw. Continuing to drive the performance development of our athletes and our leagues. And then I would say that the next 3 are opportunities where I think we want to accelerate what we're doing and what we're delivering. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment in terms of our ability to really help develop and grow our game, help share best practices, and help each of our programs make life easier for them and continue to better support our athletes and their families. So obviously we have a lot of positive outcomes in terms of where we're continuing to grow the game, our number of teams, our number of athletes, and all the positive athletes, things that happen obviously on the court, but more importantly, the benefits of folks playing the sport and being involved with the sport off the court. And so, I think we're blessed with a sport that helps our athletes. If we look at our year-end survey from a year ago, the majority of our athletes self-reported. 90% said, "Hey, I'm overall I'm happier and I've got a better well-being because I play wheelchair basketball. I've got more self-esteem. I've got more self-confidence. I've got better physical and mental health." and a significantly better level of independence, all because of playing wheelchair basketball. When we look at what our athletes are able to accomplish off the court, 91% of our athletes who are of that age have earned a high school or GED degree. When we compare that to individuals with ambulatory disabilities across the U.S., that's only 35%. 15% of those ambulatory disabilities across the U.S. have college degrees. 45% of our athletes have earned college degrees. And when we look from an employment perspective, 31% of individuals with ambulatory disabilities are employed. 72% of our athletes are employed. So obviously we're blessed with a sport that does wonderful things, and we have a lot of fun and competition on the court. But hopefully it's helped supporting
Hi, were you able to switch over to the other meeting?
Hopefully helps supporting our communities and our athletes off the court. Matt, if you want to go one more slide. So a lot of things we have to do as an organization. I want to just focus on 3 things that we're really putting a shoulder into to try and increase and accelerate. First, and I'll go through each of these in a slide, but first and foremost, we have a huge opportunity to grow our game. Secondly, I think we have an opportunity to better support our programs and our teams, and finally, help and enhance our athletes and families and support those services. So let's talk a little bit first about growing the game. Our goal is, we've got a kind of a generational opportunity here with the Paralympics in LA coming up in 28. And we really see an opportunity to use that as a springboard. And our hope is really to double the size of our teams, and hopefully close to double the size of our athletes by 2030. So essentially, I would say we're almost tripling what our kind of normal growth rate has been over the last 10 years. We think that's reasonable as we look at kind of other countries in terms of what the UK and Canada do, as we look at some of our best states in terms of per capita participation. We think kind of doubling the size of our athletes and our teams is a reasonable goal. Obviously, there's a lot of things that we will have to do differently in order to get there, and we'll talk a little bit about those. Matt, if you want to go one more slide. Some of the things that we want to do from a team perspective to help support that, some of these things you will see this year, this upcoming season. Some of these things you will see carrying in. There's a lot that obviously we want to do. We need, as we go and try and drive more fundraising and more support, more volunteers, the ability to add more staff, we will be able to accelerate these things even faster as we go. We are in the process of setting up kind of new program mentorship. So to have established programs help mentor new programs coming in as they launch and sustain new teams and new programs. We are aggressively going after grant funding to help new teams with startup grants. One of the big limitations to get into the sport is very expensive chairs. And a lot of times it's hard to get a grant, early on until you've been in the sport for a number of years. So we're trying to, Brandon will talk more about this later in the presentation, but to create a chair loaner program to ease that and accelerate new athletes coming in with chairs. We are looking to do a lot more on the outreach side of the equation, especially driving more awareness of our sport that will help all of our existing programs and our new programs from a recruitment perspective. And then I think huge opportunity to take a lot of wonderful things that are working across our programs from a best practice perspective and better share those across the country so you guys can understand what's working well and adopt more things that are tried and true winners. On the athlete and family side of the equation, I think we're excited about Matt, if you want to go one more slide. We're excited about some of the things that we're gonna pilot here next season. We're gonna pilot some peer and family support networks. So this is bringing together kind of a group of 8 to 10 individuals with kind of a member-led community connecting athletes and families by type of disability and kind of life stage, and potentially geography together to help share and learn and develop from one another. We're going to pilot that this year and then hopefully dramatically accelerate that if things are successful. We're looking to do the same thing with kind of one-on-one athlete mentorship opportunities. And then really looking as we can get more support and resources to create more life pathway support as we think about our athletes transitioning into college or career placement or more living independently and providing services and opportunities to help with those transitions for members. Also looking, we have a lot of great current athletes that are wonderful advocates for our sport, looking to continue to develop that and helping and train and develop athletes to be NWBA athlete ambassadors. And then finally, as we look to dramatically accelerate our fundraising, beyond helping new teams, also looking to find opportunities to help athletes that are struggling financially to meet some of the burdens of a very expensive sport. So a lot of things that we are trying to do there to accelerate where we're going. I think you will see seeds of a lot of that happening next season. And how fast and how far we can go is depending on, as we learn, we pilot some of these programs, as well as trying to find more support and more staff and more volunteers to drive these ambitions. Next slide, Matt. So one of the areas, we have 2,500 wonderful, amazing athlete stories. We are trying to do a better job of curating and telling those stories as we look to drive awareness for the sport, as well as find new partners and sponsors and grants and fundraising. And let me just show you an example of kind of an introductory video that we've recently created for the NWBA.
When I saw wheelchair basketball, I thought hospital chairs, I thought slow. I didn't see the beauty of the sport, how fast it would be. Banging chairs, falling over, popping back up, being able to shoot that three sitting down. I had no idea.
Imagine a world where the NWBA does not exist.
Oh, wow. Will I be employed? Will I be healthy? Will I get a degree? Those things became, like there was almost positive peer pressure towards all of those things.
Everything I've ever done has changed because of wheelchair basketball. So I wouldn't have met my wife, I wouldn't have gone to college, I wouldn't be independent.
I can't really picture what my life would look like without the NWBA, because my life is the NWBA.
NWBA on an annual basis have over 2,400 athletes in our domestic league, over 250 teams, 40 states, a couple of provinces in Canada and Puerto Rico.
I mean, you go to junior nationals and there's like 1,000 kids in wheelchairs participating, and there's referees everywhere, volunteers everywhere, and anybody that starts spending time around its athletes or its diehards falls in love with it.
They're contributing member to society, making a positive impact. That's the real success stories.
So we're helping out the next generation. We're turning 15-year-old kids with a disability into the person that's going to be running the next business or whatever it might be because of the skills that they learn from wheelchair basketball.
It is more than a sport. We're literally a life-altering, life-impacting organization.
It's got a whole bunch of intangible stuff that it brings to you off the court.
The more we can turn up the awareness of what wheelchair basketball is, we can get more people involved.
Growth is our big thing. We want to double our size as an organization.
So when you talk about an opportunity to give to an organization, really what you're providing is a quality. I think we should all be provided with that same opportunity to grow and become the best version of ourselves.
Thanks for playing that, Matt. So just a glimpse of, obviously we have wonderful stories. We have a wonderful mission. We have, fantastic members and athletes and volunteers, and just the ability to tell more of this story to help support where we're going and the type of growth that we're trying to drive. Again, before I leave, just a big thank you to our incredible staff, to all of our athletes, to our officials, classifiers, volunteers, parents, coaches. It takes a village to make this work, and appreciate all of you. So with that, unless there's any questions, I'm going to turn it over to Eric to talk to you a little bit about kind of the season in review.
Thanks, Matt. So I think we shared a similar.
Are we not taking questions? Sorry,
There's a question and answers section at the end of the agenda.
So Matt just asked for questions. I'm confused. All right. If it's going to be at the end, that's fine.
Okay, so I think we shared a map similar to this last year. Highlighting the states within the country that we have NWBA currently have NWBA programs. Kind of piggybacking off what Matt P just talked about, we are obviously aggressively looking to expand, and goal is for sure in the lower 48 to have a team or a program in every state. I'm happy to report that in the past year we did add a state. New Jersey added a junior team this past season. So one state down, about 8 or 9 more to go, but cool progress. And I don't know if they're on this call, but would like to give them a shout out, the Phantoms, for joining the season. Matt, you go next slide. So this year we had another record-breaking number of teams. We had 254 teams this year, and as we pointed out earlier, over 2,500 athletes. Of those 2,500 athletes, we had almost 700 female athletes, almost 1,000 junior athletes, and for the first time, we had over 200 athletes that had or were connected to some sort of military service, mostly veterans, but some active duty participants as well. So a great success in growing these different groups within our organization. By the numbers, you can see here as a breakdown between teams, non-athletes, adult athletes, and junior athletes. Growing, as I mentioned, a new record high number of teams, and for the first time, nearly eclipsing 900 non-athletes. Our adult athletes and junior athletes remained somewhat stagnant this year, but again, with the continued goal of expanding and growing the number of teams, we know and recognize that the number of adult athletes and junior athletes will follow. So by the numbers this year, we had 23 new teams across all of our divisions. We had 32 new officials. We had 2 international gold medals from both our men's and women's teams competing in America's Cup. We also had our first ever 3x3 medals. We had 2 international 3x3 medals. We had a men and women's team compete in the FISU World University Games in Germany last summer, and both teams were able to bring home the bronze medal. So a great first for the NWBA and for Team USA there. We just wrapped up a skills camp in Los Angeles this past weekend, which was an awesome success. Last fall, we launched the new team mentor program, put on by some of our more established or supported by some of our more established team reps and managers from across the country. We launched a new platform for officials and team reviewers, the New Start mobile platform, where our rules test for officials lives now, and where our tests for team reviewers, both adult and juniors, now live, as well as all of the USA Basketball and other coaching materials that we've developed and shared over the past couple of years. All of that existing now on a new platform in one place for everybody to access. And a special shout out to our junior division. When we're talking about a group of individuals, group of both not just the executive committee, but the conference commissioners and some of the team reps coming together and utilizing the NWBA Discord channels to stay in better communication with each other, and to advertise their events across the country and encourage teams and participation in conference championships throughout the season. So wanted to give that division a special shout out for that. And I'm sure many of you saw, we're happy to announce that we'll be going to Mesa, Arizona for our adult and junior national championship next year. It'll be in my time at the NWBA, it'll be the first time I'm seeing these 2 events all together. I know a lot of you guys that have been with the NWBA for a while remember the times of Wichita and Louisville, but Excited to see 104 teams descend on the greater Phoenix area early next April for which should be an awesome event. And then just 2 weeks prior to that, our women's national championship will be for the first time competing with by themselves as their own individual national championship in Portland, Oregon. So very excited for those two events. I know the hosts are thrilled to have us, and obviously more information to come in the lead up to both of those events. We have are far along in our conversations with both the military, the hosts for the military, and the intercollegiate national championships. We're not quite ready to announce dates and locations yet, but we will in very short order. So thank you for your patience on that. And then, I think I hand it over to Mike Gossi, our treasurer, for a financial report of the NWBA.
Hi, everyone. Matt, if you can go ahead and pop over. Eric, thanks for the update. So financial report. So I love numbers almost as much as I love wheelchair basketball. And I'm going to catch up on how we did in 2025. At the bottom of the screen, you're seeing kind of a trend of a bunch of black, which is good in the accounting world. 2024, we lost some money. We also had a lot of revenue, but we had an extreme amount of expenses in 2024. I'm going to explain a little bit of that. So from 24 to 25, we actually had a decrease in revenue. That's mostly related to some USOPC in-kind, that like their Airbnb program went away. That was more to do with Airbnb than the USOPC. There was some expiring grants with the Craig H. Nielsen Foundation. I just want to give a shout out to our NWBA and high performance staff who's found ways to be super efficient despite rising costs. Now, 2025 had a lot less expenses than 2024. We went without a headcount change. So we went away from our old CEO to Brandon in about this time last year, and went for the rest of the year without adding another person, despite Brandon having a full-time job prior to going into that position. That was to save money, but it's also to figure out how we can be most efficient with the resources that are entrusted to us. And we've done a great job of that because we've increased our net profit by over $200,000, going from a loss of $127,000 to $81,000 in profit. And then on this grant, also, if you look back to 2021, we made a little bit of profit then. That also included $45,000 of PPP loans. Thankfully, we don't have to talk about COVID as much anymore, but if we can flip to the next screen. So now we're going to talk about what's happened in the last 8 months or so. Matt, if you could pop over to the next screen. Doing more with less. Thankfully, as I mentioned, our staff has been able to produce great results. Additionally, back if you think in 2024, we lost the revenue of Toyota, who had been a multi-year, I think 5 or 6 year sponsor, and then also ABC, which had been over 10-year sponsor. Flat USOPC funding. Having said all of that, our cash flow is better than it's been in the last 15 years. I talked a little bit about the expiration of the Craig H. Nielsen grant. That was $100,000 that came in 2023 and 2024. Because those grants are actually funded very late in the year, October, November range. In 2024, we actually showed $100,000 in revenue, $144,000 in expenses. It's a little bit of imbalance. Myself and the auditors would get in a little bit of an argument because I would prefer to present things. We have grant money, we're going to spend it. We only reflect the amount of revenue that we use that we spent. And at the end, we either spend it all or we give it back. They preferred to send it to show it this other way. That would have made 2023 less profitable. 2024 still would have been a loss, but not as great a loss. The good news, and why I brought that up, is we've made the first hurdle in the Craig H. Nielsen grant for what will be the 2026 to 28 cycle. That's another $200,000 grant, and that would help membership if that grant comes through. So we're hopeful that that'll happen. As another sign of the health of an organization, for the third year in a row, we haven't had to borrow from our line of credit, which is a total of $150,000 at our capacity. The reason we've kept it in place is because it builds flexibility. We have a big growth plan in place. And in order to do that, part of my job on the board is to make sure that we have as much financial flexibility as we possibly can so that we can institute great ideas. Matt, if we can flip to the last screen. So in 2025, I'd mentioned that the USOPC grant funding had remained flat, and it has, but they really do help us out. In 2025, we benefited from $119,000 in special administration grants. What that means is it's helping all of us. It's not just helping high performance athletes. So they want us to do better by having great compliance. They understand that Safe Sport is very complex, and they help fund that. They help with external accounting services, communications a little bit, and legal assistance. But they also got rid of their Airbnb program because Airbnb, I'm not sure why. They chose another donor or charity, I guess, I assume, besides the USOPC. But that had an impact on us of about $30,000. We continue to use Bill.com and Gusto for payroll and 401k. It allows us to have separation of controls, which I need to have to keep things the way my head wants to have them, as far as separation of controls, accountability, and then efficient processing. And everything above, it helps us be safer, more professional, more compliant, and better positioned for the expected growth of our sport. So a little bit of insight on how 2026 is going so far. It's been the fastest start to non-restricted and unrestricted support of our organization's history. Additionally, continued growth of support from equipment suppliers, Hall of Fame Women's High Performance Angel Donor, and Mount Olive Pickle. So those have all been operating in great support of the NWBA for a number of years. In the first 4 months in 2026, we've already exceeded donations and grants for the full year that we've had in the last 15 years. So that's a great start. And then in addition to that, we literally just hired, I'm not going to put her on the screen, but we just handled Danielle Gosler, who has a history of being very successful in raising money, revenue. That's really her background. And all of this already has happened before she started. So I'm super excited about what's up next. And I think that is all for the financial update. Next up is Bailey Moody, 6-time intercollegiate national champion, Paralympian, bunch of medals, and a fantastic person. Bailey, you're up.
Hey everybody, my name is Bailey. I am the Team USA athlete alternate rep for the USOPC, so that also within my duties, I sit on the board as well as an athlete representative for the NWBA. I am just going to talk a little bit about the success stories of the NWBA. We've had a lot of success within our organization this year. Just looking at national championships, we had success at junior nationals with the varsity invitational champion being Adaptive Sports Ohio, prep being Austin, and then the varsity national champion being Dallas Junior Mavs. And then for adult nationals, Division 1 was the Dallas Wheelchair Mavericks, Division 2 was Arkansas, and Division 3 was Tacoma. And then for men's and women's wheelchair basketball, we had Alabama Crimson Tide, Roll Tide for the women's national championship. And then for the men, we had Auburn. So a little bit of an Auburn-Alabama rivalry there, but lots of success collegiately. And then at women's and military wheelchair nationals, we had for women's the Wausau Marquette Eagles. For military division, we had Dallas. Again, another national championship for Dallas. But as you can see, a lot of national championships in a lot of divisions and just a lot of success across the board and across the country. And then we also welcomed 4 members into our Hall of Fame. So we welcomed Eric Barber, Buddy Barnes, Jim Glash, and Kathy Miller. So congratulations to these 4. Very, very, very well deserved there. And good additions to our Hall of Fame in class of 2026. And then we also gave out the Good Guy Award to Carlos Mireles, forgive me for my pronunciation of your last name, but this award is presented annually. It recognizes individuals who embody a deep commitment to wheelchair basketball at the grassroots level. So looking at supporting teams, conferences, and the NWBA community as a whole from the very start. So definitely a well-deserved recipient here of the 2026 NWBA Bill and Julie Duncan Good Guy Award. And then if we're looking at, we had several three-point national champions across the board for varsity, adult, military, and women. So congratulations, Caden, Ryan, Matthew, and Rachel. That's super exciting. It's cool to see three-point from across the board, all the way from high school to women's to adult, military. So congratulations to these winners as well. And then finally, we have for the past several years had some presence in some way at the NCAA Final Four. So during the 2026 Women's Final Four weekend, we did have some representatives there and hosted like an expo in Phoenix while honoring members of the NWBA Domestic League, and then also the 2024 U.S. Women's Wheelchair Basketball Team. We also had some representatives there. So cool to be kind of merging those two worlds with having able-bodied basketball and wheelchair basketball starting to collide a little bit. We have had some presence here for a few years, so it's cool to see how this continues to develop. But overall, the NWBA has a lot to show for this year and a lot of success that we have had just from the grassroots level to our national team level. So congratulations to everyone involved. Just some really cool things happening within this organization. And I am now kicking it back to Brandon.
Awesome. Thanks, Bailey. Appreciate it. And a lot of great success this last season, a lot of acknowledgments and awards and recognition for legends of our game as well. So cool. Well, my section on the manager report, I'm just going to kind of give you a pulse check of where we're at on things and where we're going. Next slide, Matt. So last assembly, last year, we had talked about we were going through our recertification process with the USOPC. As you can see on the slide there, last time we had one of those, it was last year. Now they've changed the cycle where once you've got to this renewal period, you're kind of allowed to, I'll say, take a break for a couple of years. It is quite an extensive process, but wanted to report back to you all that we were certified and will continue to be recognized as the national governing body by the USOPC for wheelchair basketball here in the U.S., and that'll remain until 2029. This is not a small task at all. And frankly, if you're tracking the world of sport right now, there's other NGBs that might not be continuing to keep their certification with the USOPC or their funding. So we're proud that a lot of the things throughout this process and this audit process make us a more professional and polished organization. And that's truly why I say from my seat, I welcome this. I always want to be better for you as members and better as an organization, the best possible organization we can be for our sport. And so just wanted to share that update. So next slide. So Matt kind of started off talking about our big growth initiative, doubling our teams. And there's a challenge, obviously, of just like, you can't just like, hey, like, where are you going to find these athletes? What are you going to do? So we've kind of identified there's like 5 buckets of hurdles or challenges to overcome to really allow us to accelerate the growth that we want to see. And how do we help potential champions of these or ourselves overcome those challenges and foster new programming in underserved communities or underrepresented communities. First thing that we need to do, we've needed to start to identify champions within the community. Who can we be partnering with? in these communities that we don't have current programming, and who can take on ownership of that. And that looks differently. I know all the team reps on here know that over the years when I was in my membership role with the organization, various roles with the organization, like I know that a lot of you sit in different roles or capacities with your organization and your program. So understanding that dynamic and how it works within any given community or within any given organization might look differently. But then in addition to that, we need to find the athletes or the participants. And active, intentional recruitment is something that we need to do better, not only for these new ones, but I'll say even for the existing teams. I think one of our abilities to truly grow and achieve our growth plan that we want, we need to actively recruit athletes, and what that playbook looks like. I think there's some that do it well and some that just organically hope athletes come to their program. And I get it. It takes time, energy, and effort. But if we could have some resources, toolkits, whatnot, that could help create that and foster a more attractive recruiting strategy, then hopefully that'll help teams onboard in a quicker pace. And then the next one, I think the next two are probably two of the bigger of the 5 hurdles. One is funds. I know that everyone on this call that's run a program understands that adaptive sports, they're always underfunded, and we need to create at the office opportunity to create more funding availability. So throughout the presentation, you've heard about grants we're going after and whatnot, and a lot of times the grants we're going after, we're tucking in what we're calling these startup team packages of $15,000 to $20,000, where we're going to arm those grant funds to a new community in wherever it might be, and say, here you go, here's seed money to get you off the ground for the first initial year, in addition to all these other things we're trying to do to help them grow and expand the current teams they have. Maybe it's a new division they're trying to launch, or just bring wheelchair basketball to their community, which we all know a lot of times is a catalyst for other adaptive sports, wheelchair sports. And then the next one is the chair share program, which I'll talk about, is access to sports wheelchairs. We all know that's a extreme barrier to our sport. It's really hard to introduce someone to our sport and say, hey, by the way, if you want to play this, you're going to have to drop $5,000 on a custom wheelchair. That's a very, very hard sell. I know a lot of us that have been there for try events or invited people out. So how do we break down that barrier, or how do we limit that barrier to equipment as much as possible? And then the last one, from the education piece, how do we continue to arm you all as program administrators, so your coaches, or if you're a team rep or whatever, have the proper information sharing, knowledge sharing to put on events, to structure your program budget to whatever it might be in the best possible way to retain you as a program. Next slide. So without further ado, I just wanted to kind of show a little video here on our chair share program. Awesome. Next slide. So we've talked about chair share. So this is for those bigger programs. You have chair closets, and by no means let me make this loud and clear because I was part of one of those bigger programs. We do not want to cannibalize any of these large chair closets that programs have or operate. Our goal with this is to create a nationwide chair closet and namely access for those new programs that we're trying to highlight and arm them with chairs out of the gate and eliminate that barrier to equipment. I'll say already this program's real. We already have a $25,000 grant, and we already have a private donor that came in and donated $65,000 this initial year. So super excited that this program is officially launched and we'll start creating access to the chairs that we do have. We've already started to collect some chairs. I'm welcoming any other further donations, not to get ahead of myself in my presentation from any of you. But truly, we see the tremendous benefit of this program creating that access to equipment and revitalizing the life of chairs that, frankly, I know some of you on here that know some chairs that sit in a storage closet, a garage, a trailer, or wherever. They might need a new click strap, a new cushion, but they would be able to create a lot of opportunity in the sport for other individuals than collecting dust in that garage. So our goal with this is, we're going to essentially help with the logistics of this, have what we're calling pickup and drop off days. So we're going to identify some bigger regional events where we're going to say, hey, NWBA will have their chair share program present. We'll probably invite the new athletes that are picking up their new chairs to come watch some NWBA action. Frankly, they might not even be a registered, team in that tournament, but they might be regionally based where they want to come out, check out the event. And then also for those teams that are competing, that are showing up, if they are able to bring chairs that they want to donate, we're willing to accept the donations at that time, kind of in a bulk format. So we think that this will, the out and in for those pickup and drop out days will hopefully reduce some logistics on this program, but we have a few others to iron out. But excited at the prospect of what this could be for new teams, namely, or bridging the gap for those individuals new to our sport that need that 1 to 2 years to go after a Challenge Athletes Foundation grant or a Kelly Brush or whatever grant, or have DOD pay for their chair, whatever it might be. But we all know that, getting into a chair and getting into a chair and experiencing our sport, that's critical need. So we're really excited about the funding that we already have behind this and what's more to come with this program. And we really think it's going to help launch our team expansion goals as we collectively, create this chair closet or loaner program for all of you to access, even if you're looking to just add a new women's team or military team or whatever it might be. And we can help augment what your current chair inventory looks like. So next slide. Awesome. So strategic plan, we've talked about our strategic plan in the past, and I'll say this, going into 26 here, and before jumping into a few of these, is obviously there's 1,000 good ideas we could be doing, but I'm really excited about where the staff and the board all focus their attention on what we're going to do in 26 and what we're going to accomplish in 26 to set us up right for 27 and beyond. And first and foremost, Mike kind of talked about it during the financial section, is we have to continue to sharpen our pencil and get our financials right. And it starts there. We've seen our organization at times where it hasn't been in a position with flexibility to do things, as using Mike's phrasing. But at the same time, we need to help ourselves. And truly what I mean by that is we need to go out and we need to be identifying things that are low-hanging fruit or fundraising against specific programs. And now I feel like we have that. When we look at in the years past, at times we were asking for money as a 501c3, but we didn't have a specific plan or goal or programs we were fundraising against. And now truly we have those. We have some content that can make us compelling in our storytelling to potential donors, sponsors, corporate partners, whatever it might be. And so when you look at this list here, these are all things that, either we had been doing, but we haven't been doing it as intentional as we could have in the past, or frankly, we didn't focus our attention on it because we didn't have the capacity or the expertise, or frankly, at that time, we didn't move it up on the priority list like it should have been. And that's what I applaud the team this year of doing, is truly making A-list priorities. Again, I can hear 1,000 things that we could be doing as the NWBA, but we need to get our financials right first and foremost. Next slide. When we were talking, this was, you can go to the next slide, Matt. That one actually was supposed to be in. So when we're talking about kind of content branding, you've seen a couple of the videos now. We have a few others. We have some new pitch decks that we've developed. And then we're looking to utilize our athletes. And I think this is one space that we're all excited, and we're excited at the prospect of having a lot of athlete buy-in right now, is having athletes tell their story. There's nothing more compelling to, in those settings where we're making an ask, or we're with a sponsored donor, corporate partner, and we have an athlete there that can really share the impact that the dollars are making. And so we're looking to, be more intentional with the athlete ambassador program in launching that, and having athletes come along with our journey and helping move the needle for the NWBA. And then when we're looking at what ponds we're fishing in, so when we were talking about like grants, other things that we're focused on for revenue, also what are we doing for teams and programs? We've talked about all this growth goal, and how are you guys, going out there and finding new partners? Well, that's again an opportunity later in this presentation I'll ask for view, but we definitely are all ears to new communities we can be in, new VA hospitals, rehab centers, whatever it might be, that we currently don't have programming, we currently don't have connectivity to. And that's really ultimately what I think when it comes down to our current relations, expanding upon those in a more intentional way to help us achieve the growth goals that we're focused on. And then another thing that we've started to do this year, is like I know for the longest time we've been wanting to get ahead, and I say get ahead for lack of better phrasing, on where our home is.
Brandon, I think you're muted.
Brandon, you got muted.
You're muted, buddy. There you
go. Oh, someone muted me. Where did I cut by chance, Matt?
About 30 seconds ago.
Okay. Just talking about, I think I was probably on the external partners and talking about focusing on how we wanted to get ahead of planning for our nationals, our future home for our nationals, allowing you as those that are team reps on here or athletes to budget and plan your calendars years in advance. I mean, that's our ultimate goal. We need to do that better rather than, you're knowing 9 months in advance. Our ultimate goal is multiple years. So you know where the home for nationals is. And then we can also, find some roots and find some partners within those settings with the LOC that we're working with or whatever the structure. So, next slide. just talking about more in the realm of what we're doing with our athletes. Again, that I mentioned, I think finding athletes, and we're finding a lot of athletes right now that are wanting to help us leadership and help us tell our story. But we're always looking for more athlete stories. We know we have thousands of amazing athlete stories, and those stories at times connect to different groups, different partners, different donors of ours. And we hope to unlock more for membership out of those. It's not just at the end of our bottom line, if it's a partnership we can create into a member discount or VIK program, or other programming or events. Other things that we're continuing to focus on, obviously, focus on continued expansion and exposure in the international game, not just with our athletes, but with classifiers and officials. We were fortunate to send a certified or a classifier to get certified at the America's Cup this last year. And we're looking to be sending a couple of officials this year to an IWBF event to get certified. So really excited that we're branching out, making sure that our exposure of the NWBA is not just our athletes in the international level. And it's the great thing about that is, for all your awareness, when Mike was talking about all those ancillary things that the USOPC does, this actually is a grant through their international relations department. So very cool that we've been able to fund unique projects like that and continue to broaden our exposure within the international game. And then talk about one thing here just real briefly is we continue to focus on what our opportunities we're presenting and offering in 3x3. Eric touched on it, sending the first team internationally last year, but we continue to look at what that looks like, and we'll have more to come down the road. Don't take that bullet point as more than hey, it's something that we continue to prioritize. Once we hopefully get some of these other foundational things and the funding is right, we're able to offer more events, teams, programs, leagues, whatever it might be. So, and then namely that last one can't be understated. More as like team expansion is just ultimately our goal. Like we need to have a presence in all these communities. We're not. It wasn't in this slide deck, but I know we talk about it all the time, is like we feel like we can have a presence in cities that have 125,000. I know one of our statistics is like we have juniors teams in 40% of those. Like that's not enough. We need to be represented in all of those communities because, as I mentioned, wheelchair basketball 9 times out of 10 is the catalyst for other adaptive sports programs starting in that community, wheelchair softball, football, whatever it might be. So us pushing on the forefront to create opportunity to adaptive sports within the community is going to create beyond our sport. So again, just showcasing the impact that we want to make as an organization beyond just what's happening in the 4 lines and within our sport of wheelchair basketball. So next slide. And then in this bucket, just kind of talk about our goals for infrastructure and operations this year. Did want to officially welcome Danielle to the staff team. We recently hired Danielle. Danielle joined us, having most recently worked with the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Foundation. She's going to be assisting me and the team and the board with some development and fundraising. And then we've also this year focused on a number of things that, again, how can we be more polished, professional, and better for you all administratively as members. And so these are just some things that we're going to be focusing our attention on. The last one on there is something that I'm going to bring up in the next slide, but I'll mention it here. It's a program where we're in need to create capacity. We're always going to be in the need. We are, I'll always say we may be a national brand, but we are operating with a staff of a small business, and we need help in an expertise. And I know that exists within our network or within the the network that exists of individuals that want to provide volunteerism to a great organization like the NWBA. And we really need individuals that are, you know, can bring a skill set that truly could help us move the needle in this space of whatever it might be, if they're computer science or specific job realm that would be helping our current staff team and our current board create some capacity or give some insight, advisement, consultation, whatever it might be. So we'll be testing the waters. We've been fortunate to have tried this out over the last year with a role of helping us with grants. I don't know if it was on Matt's slide earlier, but be remiss to say we've had an individual helping us in that space for quite some time and super successful. So I think we continue to have a need here to create more capacity within the dedicated volunteer program. And more to come on that. So next slide. I mean, nothing better than just looking at wheelchair basketball and recapping what a great season we've had. No, ultimately, I think just as I said last year, the opportunity still is in front of us. I know last year we were kind of I was just jumping into this role, had been in, you know, any previous role with the organization, but I truly think we're on the precipice of something special here at the NWBA. I maybe have said this, like at times we were maybe surviving, we were then sustaining, but I think we're on the precipice of thriving as an organization. And if we're able to hit on a few of these initiatives for 26, activate on some of the things that we want from you as members, I truly think we can push through as an organization and get to the level that we want to, as Matt was talking about, and use LA as that launching pad into something amazing for our organization and our sport. So with that, next slide. How can you help? What can you do? One thing, and this is just a gentle reminder to all of you, because I don't think you probably know this, or maybe sometimes you're not thinking about this, but you are always an ambassador for adaptive sports, the Paralympic movement and the NWBA. You might not think you're whatever program or whatever. If you're wearing our logo, if you're wheelchair basketball, I would be willing to bet 9 times out of 10 someone's like thinking you're the NWBA in Chicagoland or wherever it might be. And so super critical you remember that, just because, you know, you're representing us as an organization. And then with that, kind of a couple of call to actions. I mentioned the Chair Share program. We will have information out as soon as we can on when a pickup or drop off date will be happening. I think we likely have one early November in the North Carolina area, but more logistics on that to make it official. But I will say, if you are starting to, you know, a spring cleaning, you know, for those programs that run a track program or wheelchair softball, you're cleaning out your chairs or switching over storage, and you're setting a few chairs aside. Keep us in the back of your mind, like, hey, I could donate this to the NWA Chair Share program. By all means, glad to have that. And even if you shoot us a quick note, it helps us. And you know, maybe along the way here, we might need to activate sooner than a pickup date would allow for us to get those chairs and refurbish them. As I said, we have inventory right now. But if we're looking to launch some of these new teams, we're going to have to build that inventory quick. This first year, I think we had 165 chairs was our goal for the inventory, knowing that we're going to be outfitting a number of new teams within those chairs and knowing sizing and all of that. So, and then the next one, be on the lookout for what I mentioned about the dedicated volunteer program. You know, I think our team, we at times, or just if you want to discuss it more, if you think you have a skill set for a specific avenue of our operations that you could give time to. You know, we're really looking for individuals that have an expertise that could be a value add, capacity add for the board, revenue generation group, and the staff. You know, the nice thing about this is, you know, this program, we're able to kind of modify it, and we're still morphing it a little bit, but at the same time, it's not run through an election or anything like that. So we'll just have our staff and leadership team kind of screen what that looks like. And then next one, surveys. We have a couple of them that'll be coming out. First one I'll speak on because I think a lot of them are on here is I believe Kristen and Eric and our team will have a team rep one going out just for team reps. Frankly, we want to get a status check on what your climate of your program looks like. I know some of you that were part of junior programs, you may have had some conversations similar to this during junior nationals, which I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with Matt Pierre on that. But we're continuing to just arm ourselves on more information and how we can help you be better programs, and or what's your appetite of bringing on additional maybe teams or regional based teams for new divisions in your area. And so that one's super critical for us to see where we're at programmatically. And then our annual survey will be following that, and that'll likely be I think early to mid-June. Eric could correct me, but that one's super critical. As you saw Matt during some of his talking points, we showcase that in a lot of our grants, a lot of other places, pitch decks and whatnot. So your participation, super valuable. I know surveys aren't always the most fun thing, but you know, maybe put on the NBA finals and you know, take 15 minutes and complete it for us, and we'd really appreciate it. So, and then last one there, you know, we talked about we're continuing to mine and fish in new ponds for revenue generation. We know our network is likely tapped, so we're trying to figure out where new places we can go. So if there is any introductions, even if it's just an hey, I know someone, or I work for X, Y, and Z, we're glad to take that and run with it. You know, ultimately, as you see from this, you know, we're trying to not just take these funds and, you know, we're trying to inject new programming funding back to the membership. So hope you see the value in that, and hopefully if you are able to offer any lead generation network access for us, that would be amazing. So yeah, I think that's everything for me. Next slide, which I think is thank you, and then voting closed, which we didn't do a vote, so I think we're doing a Q&A, Matt. Perfect.
Hi, this is
Hey,
Dan from Chicago. Brandon, I just want to tell you, you know, excellent job. I don't know how many people were at Movie United, but I was. And I always talk about the NWBA and how proud I am that we get to govern our own sport. So great job going through that process. The big move nationally for all these other NGBs is to put Paralympic sport under the able-bodied umbrella without any sort of expertise. So I look at it, to me, it's a badge of honor that we still control our sport in 2026. Just want to remind the membership that we are a member-driven organization. It makes me proud, even though we didn't get the business done, that the adult division stays true to the history of the game. You know, I always think about my first, you know, delegate assembly, and 200 people yelling and screaming in a meeting room was pretty cool. So I said the same thing in the junior committee. We need to have members who are engaged and involved.
Sure. Appreciate it, Dan. And yeah, definitely. We're blessed to, you know, have the autonomy for you all to operate this organization, you know, member driven, volunteer led. So anyone else with questions, or is there questions in the chat if anyone along the way?
Hey, last shout out then. Want to thank Eric for jumping on a call today with the Chicago Bulls for the annual Bulls Fest tournament. It was a value add in our conversation with them. So if anybody's interested, coming August 22nd, 23rd, we'd love to have you.
Well, yeah, more information to follow. We'll send out some, direct emails to the junior teams and put that information on our socials here in the next week or so. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah. I think the only question I see, Jacob, I see your question on the IWBF. I'll say it. IWBF definitely has a number of things they're working through. Their Congress is actually this year. I'll be attending that. It's held in conjunction with the World Championships in Ottawa. So there'll be a number of things voted on during that time. I will say that training program specifically you're talking about, don't have an update to share there. I do know for LA 28, they have hired their sport manager for it, and I actually have a call with him this week, some follow-up discussion, and that was through an introduction from the IWBF General Counsel or Secretary. So more to come for sure when we can share stuff. Yeah. Any other questions?
Brandon, looks like we've got a question from Paul and then from Michelle.
Okay. Scroll up, I'm assuming, or I just didn't see them.
They have their hands raised. It's not in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Paul.
Fire away.
Hi, everyone. Paul Jackson, Golden State. I think, Brandon, you're doing a fantastic job. You said that we have thousands of stories throughout the league. And I think that, one of those stories is our championships. And I'm wondering if, a network like ESPN can do our championships, by, doing a story leading up to our championships. And, they would get the numbers with all the participants in the championships. So I was just wondering if you're looking into something like that. And we haven't participated in the NBA All-Star Weekend since 2015. If we're looking to get back into, being represented at that event also.
Yeah. I'll first take the broadcast rights. Broadcast rights is definitely something I think even during my time, I've seen various leadership kind of investigate what's available and what's out there, and how we could get coverage at our nationals and at a production level that we all know. I mean, again, but if cornhole is on ESPN, I think cornhole is much less of a sport than our amazing sport. And so it's kind of a head scratcher there, but I'm glad to continue to have those conversations. And, if an opportunity or if anyone on here is willing to make an introduction, we'll continue to investigate what exists there, outside of obviously the biggest thing with those rights is, we need someone, a partner, and some funding behind it. We're not obviously financially positioned to fund for that airtime, that we'd want that funding we'd rather invest it back into you and local programs. So it's just that challenge of figuring out how we get those broadcast rights or that airtime, if it is even airtime that's comped or whatever it might be. So Paul, by all means, it's not, something we can continue to keep our finger on. I will say, like in this year, don't have any like warm leads, but if anyone does, again, glad to have an introduction. And then to your other question, that you were kind of talking about, the USA Basketball, not USA, NBA Basketball, our partnership with them since 2020 or 2015. I know when we had re-engaged with them, it had kind of fallen under the junior NBA program of theirs. And we had continued talks with them over the years, and various leadership has had talks with them as well. And I think it's really that arm of interest, and I think it just we hadn't broken through past that junior MBA arm. And if that program, was one that they wanted to revitalize, obviously we'd look for them similar to like the Final Four, where when Bailey was mentioning that the last number of years we've been very fortunate where the Final Four and the NCAA have funded that project. We haven't, they're like, bring us the athletes, bring us the coaches and fund that. So I would hope that same model, if we could create it with the NBA, they would do that same thing. That's just how we'd have to approach it, right? Though, just being smart about the approach to creating that. But I do know that there's a lot of folks that cherish those times. Paul, that trophy may or may not still sit in my office on a shelf. So for anyone on here that was part of that, just let you know that a trophy does still live on in recognition. So, but yeah, I think I see another hand raised. Sorry, you can just unmute and fire away.
I think we've got Michelle Jenkins.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Hey, Michelle.
I just had some commentary as a team rep. I received an email that I think was sent out to a lot of people. And to me, I think it like manufactured a panic around the votes. And it feels like I showed up here to vote. I'd done my due diligence on reading the amendments and have that shut down because of a manufactured panic is like, I feel like my voice is not going to be heard here. I'm not sure when our votes will be taken.
Yeah, and I'll say this, I think just to clarify for everyone here, I think there was two versions of the amendments that was shared or posted in various locations. One with red line, one with some accepted red line. So it wasn't fully understood maybe what was the bylaws unless they went into the bylaws and saw. So due to that administrative error, I'll call it that. We just decided to forego the voting just because the collective group, some may have not digested that information as okay and understood this bylaw and had the time, which I appreciate the time you took and understand it. I will say, having said all that, doesn't mean that these aren't it was just tabled. I think
Muted
the
again.
governance, I think the governance committee is gonna take action of going to refine those proposals in the appropriate way with red line and then send them back out. Unfortunately, though, our business is conducted on an annual basis at the annual assembly. So it will need to be wait till 2027 assembly for us to institute those changes, being that they are bylaws. All the other changes within our organization, like policies and procedures or guidelines at divisional meetings, can be done at other times, but bylaws are only done, at the annual assembly. So I know that was long-winded, and I do appreciate, again, Michelle, your time you spent on it. And unfortunately, for those that didn't have the time or didn't have the understanding and can appreciate the frustration. So, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else got any questions? Well, without that further ado, so 32, we went over by 2 minutes. I was hoping to keep us on track, but do appreciate the time, everyone, as throughout this presentation this evening. I think it was stated, you all are super critical to the success of our organization. Active participation from you is going to be needed for us to make the progress. I will be the first to admit, even in my role, and maybe others may have not seen it, but I've worn every hat in this organization. I'm going to need the help of the membership to truly make the progress that we want to make. So I hope that you guys can join me in that, and whatever that means for you and your program and your participation or your involvement in the NWBA. But I'll tell you, we're on track of a really great year, and I hope you guys can join us in the journey in whatever way possible. So, yeah. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.